Welcome to my show. A guest here. His name is Paul Statton. Mr. Paul, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well, and it's a pleasure to be a guest on your show. I thank you for allowing me to come on.
All right, and also thank you so much for the time and the opportunity. Firstly, you are a self-healing and life mastery coach. Can you please, Mr. Paul, discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, Mr. Paul?
Okay, so people often call me the healing wizard because what I do is I help people know how to heal themselves by connecting to their body, getting the messages from their body, and once you know how to understand the symptoms, you can then know how to clear them. Because that then means that people don't have to go to doctors or they don't need to take unnecessary pills, which are quite often poisonous, or get unnecessary surgery. So I've been doing this for about 30 years and I've been helping people from over 50 countries heal from any sort of symptoms.
Very much beautiful. We always know that the greatest source to light is always healing. Because despite how we are actually facing the world's ups and downs, we always feel the sense of wound. And there have to be necessary tools for us to actually resolve or also recover from the wound that we've actually had as well. And also with the experience you've had as a coach in recent years, have you written any book or are you planning to write any book in the coming future, Mr. Paul?
I've actually already written 8 books on healing and learning. Um, I might give a link to one of them under here, but my latest book, which I wrote last year, is called Life Mastery, which tells a lot about how to understand life. Because a lot of people don't really understand life. They understand, well, why do things happen in my life? Or why do I have an illness? And if you understand life, you can understand why things happen in your life, and that actually will reduce your suffering.
Very much beautiful. And we definitely hope that more actually continues to come out in the coming future as well, despite the hate book that you've actually written, Mr. Paul. And also, Mr.
Cool.
Paul, I would like to drive to people who may actually like to drive to the point of survival mode and who also want to be in the position to recognize what it feels to actually feel normal. So let us drive to the listeners who have been living in constant stress, who could be living in pressures or emotional exhaustion. How do you think they can try to begin to recognize that what feels normal may actually be survival mode, Mr. Paul?
I think it's really a good question because quite often people think, well, what life is, it's normal. But I think a good way to start recognise that it not actually might not be normal, but in survival, is first of all looking at the symptoms. Because if you're in survival mode, you're going to have symptoms. And those symptoms could be mental unrest. So are you always anxious? Are you always worrying? Right? Are you depressed? Or got negative thoughts? Are you on an emotional roller coaster? You very easily get into depression or you very easily feel sad and you sort of go up and down a lot. That's probably a reflection that you're on survival mode. If you've got a lot of body symptoms, because body symptoms are represent a block in consciousness. So if you've got continual symptoms in your body, that's another sign that it's not normal. The other signal is if you've got a lot of dramas going on in your life, right? Which is based on the law of attraction, that reflects that you've got a box of energy inside. So if you're always creating life dramas, you've got issues with people, or you always seem to have bad experiences, that's probably a reflection that it's not normal. I think another good signal is if you have got self-sabotage behaviours. So, and quite often, most common one is like addictions. So if you're smoking all the time, or you're drinking a lot, or you're addicted to sex or gambling or shopping, buying clothes, that's probably another reflection that you're in survival mode. Yeah.
Exactly, and you actually made one of the greatest points as well, recognizing the symptoms. There are a little symptoms that we definitely usually have in our life at times, and those are the things that actually put us to the position of the survivor mode. And actually being in
Yeah,
the
totally.
position to actually recognize these little symptoms plays a very huge role and could actually make a huge impact, and also addiction. Addiction is something that is severally known to a lot of people. It could be smoking, it could be anything. But despite if it is something that could affect the health in a very huge way, it's also one of the greatest source we have to actually try to give a sense of recognition and see how we could
Yeah,
also get
totally.
it working as well. And also,
Yep.
Mr. Paul, I would like to drive to the point of people who feel trapped in overthinking also and also fear or they always bracing for the next problem. What do you think are also some of the first steps towards creating more safety and freedom within themselves, Mr. Paul?
Okay, one of the first things I do is I help people feel stronger, right? And actually, I give a very simple exercise. I get people connected to an animal, which they feel, they feel strong, right? This is a very shamanic concept, right? And I give an example. Like I had this lady from Kenya, and when I got her connected to an animal she saw as powerful, for her, which it was a black stallion, and when she imagined being a black stallion, that made her feel strong. And when she used to get bullied at school, and when she actually allowed herself to be feel the energy of being a black stallion, when she went to school, she actually imagined being that when she walked into the schoolyard. And she told me she never got bullied again because she felt stronger in herself. Right. So that's a very simple exercise. And that's changed a lot of people. So people who have narcissistic bosses, they do the same thing. Right. And that gives them an inner strength, I think is a good way of, so that feeling that strength inside of yourself to know that you can handle life, I feel was a great way to feel safe in yourself.
Exactly. And it is one of the most difficult things people actually find to do. They go out there and actually look for solutions. But most of the time, if we can sit down and actually give ourselves the sense that despite the situation, give an instance like what you said earlier about the child who was always bullied. If we can give ourselves the position that we can actually get our situation resolved, we will always find the path through how we can actually get it resolved because we are the one that actually understand ourselves. And as we usually say, no one actually understands ourselves more than ourselves. And if we can try our best to actually use what we have, then we can actually see the productivity and also the results as well. And also, Mr.
There's
Paul,
another there's another exercise I like to tell people as well, because a lot of people have issues and don't feel safe from what happened to them as a child. Generally, their childhood they didn't feel safe, and that could have been because they had unconscious parents or whatever. So what I do is I get people to imagine. Well, it's actually about self-parenting. So I imagine them that they have. Oh, imagine what it'd be like to have that perfect mother. Imagine what it'd be like to have that perfect father in your life. So in a way, they're actually parenting themselves because then they can feel safer because they didn't feel safe because they probably didn't feel they might have felt safe around their parents. You know, they could have had a narcissistic, controlling parent. So that's another good way I help people feel safe inside themselves.
that is a very, very important part, Mr. Paul, because when a brain develops, it's developed when a person is a child. And if a person, as you said, have a very narcissistic parent and actually do not have a good background, it actually says a lot when the person is actually building him or herself. And it's also a person who is ready to actually make a change because something that has been
Yeah.
damaged from downward, it's very, very difficult. And I'm so glad you actually have more experience in that perspective to actually drive people through and also give them the various solutions that can help them in their life in the perspective as well. And that is why I would
Totally.
also like to drive to the role you think the body, the nervous system, and also the stored emotional patterns. What you think it plays in keeping a person stuck in survival mode, even when life circumstances may have changed, Mr. Paul.
Well, because in a way, right, the body is there to give you messages to heal. But for what a lot of people do, they're so attached to the pain and they try and fight against the pain. And you can't fight against an illness, right? That's one of the myths in healing. You've got to accept it and know that your body's sending you a message. The other thing is quite often people get attached to an illness. They actually identify with it. And I'll give an example. I had a lady who had arthritis, and she had arthritis for like 15 years. But she got attached to it because of the benefits it gave her. So I met her at a healing centre. But all these people giving her a lot of attention because she had the illness. So in a way, their illness was giving her some benefits. But I said to her, well, rather than having an illness to get attention, you could actually be a powerful woman to get attention. So quite often people might get attached to the illness. They'll identify with it. Oh, I've got this illness, I've got this. So they actually become the illness. It's like they get attached to the symptom. Rather than what healing is saying is, no, utilize the symptom to get messages to change.
Exactly. It shows how impactful that we can actually be in the position that the body can actually help us in several ways. That also make us to
Totally.
understand that we can actually get situation resolved, and also how the body can play a very, very huge role in keeping us stuck in the survival mode, and also what we can also do to actually move things forward as well. And Mr. Paul, I would just like to drive to the point of sign. Because when someone is actually trying to get his or her situation resolved, there have to be some signs one act to actually see within themselves that things are improving, things are actually getting better in their life, and they're actually getting out of that survival mode. So, what do you think are some of the signs that a person is starting to move out of survival mode and into a life that feels more grounded, joyful, and fully of their own? Mr. Paul.
Well, in a way, this is the opposite to one of the earlier questions, because if people start to feel better, oh, I just feel better, well, that's an indication that they've let go of some of the symptoms, right? It could mean that they feel clearer, they got greater clarity, right? Could mean a less emotional roller coaster, right? They got less body symptoms. They're creating less dramas in their life, right? There's less sabotage. They're not so needing addictions like food or smoking to feel good. So less sabotage behaviours is also a sign that they actually are starting to shift. So I would say when there's less symptoms, right? That's a good indication that you're actually have made a move in your life and you're on the right path to healing.
Very much beautiful. It shows that when we start to see something actually start to reduce, that is the symptoms start to reduce. We start to feel more relieved. We start to see some kind of situation in our life actually turning to the positive direction. It is actually a very, very good sign that the improvement is actually coming. And also, that is also the time we have to continue to maintain ourselves and also continue to keep the momentum as well, not for us to relent, because when we relent, it can actually trigger back and also actually get us back to the state we do not want to be as well. So we want to try our best
Absolutely.
to continue to stay maintained in the healing and continue to build that to the position whereby we are strong enough to actually build a more fulfilled life and also live more authentically and also fully of our own as well. And also, Mr. Paul, I would just like
Totally.
to dive to people who will be opportune to listen to our discussion and could be quietly wondering whether life can feel lighter, safer, and more authentic than it does right now in their life. What would you want them to remember about healing, freedom, and the possibility of breaking free from survival mode, Mr. Paul?
Well, first of all, something to believe it's possible, right? Because if you open, because quite often people are suffering and they're stuck, like we talked about before, is because they're stuck in negative thinking. So I think the first thing is about meditate, get into a higher consciousness, so that, and it's in a way, it's like getting connected to the divine, knowing that we're more than just a human being um, caught up in human suffering, knowing that we're part of the divine and that looking at things from that biggest perspective will help us change. Because in a way, a lot of suffering is caused by people taking things personally. Oh my God, this person did this something to me, or whatever, rather than saying, okay, maybe I went through this experience to learn something to be of service. Right. And I'll give an example. I had this girl that got sold as a sex slave when she was 6 years old. Now that would have been very dramatic. Imagine your mum selling you, right? Now she was suffering a lot when she came to me. She had a lot of shame. She had a lot of guilt, a lot of anger towards the mum and towards men that had sexually abused her. But when I helped her understand that she maybe went through that experience so that she could actually be of service and actually help the girls who are currently going through it because pedophilia is a big issue in the world. Now, when she changed that perspective, it totally changed her attitude and she felt better. So that change of perspective is a very important part, I feel, of healing, is to be open to change your perspective. Not, in other words, to let go of what's happening and being open to different possibilities. I think that's a major way that people can be open to healing, to know it's possible. And maybe you need to get support from healers like me, like holistic healers, to help you make that change, right? So that you feel supported.
That is a very powerful one because the summarization is the way we see the world actually plays a very huge role in our life. It plays a very powerful role. You will see it in the other side, having fault, having something to blame, and all those kind of things. It stuck with us and actually give us the sense of wound and do not let us connect with the divine as well. But it will see the world in a very much positive way. It plays a very huge role in everything that we do, living a life of fulfillment and also accepting everything that comes along the way, seeing how we can learn from it and also how we can build on that. We do know it's very more difficult when we actually realize some situation that come around us. And that is the time we have to prove how strong we are to accept what comes along and build upon it as well. And if we can see the world in those perspectives, I think it will really, really play a very huge role in every single one of us life. Mr. Paul, I sincerely want to appreciate you for the discussion we've had because it is something that actually gives someone the sense of the inner healing because our inner self is the source. It's just like having a car. When having a car, we have a machine, I think an engine rather. So we have an
Mm-hmm.
engine, it's the engine that is the source. And the mind is just like the engine. And I sincerely appreciate you for actually bringing out this conversation today. And also, Mr. Paul, there is also a question I normally ask during the end of the show. From our forefathers, from our ancestors, there are a lot of beautiful things that do exist during our forefathers' time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, Mr. Paul, what do you think that thing will be, Mr. Paul?
That's a really, really great question because, you know what, I come from Australia, and the Australian Indigenous culture is one of the oldest cultures in the world, right? And in a way, I've worked with a lot of indigenous ancestry. I've worked with shamans in the Amazon jungle, which is a lot of based on a lot of ideas from thousands of years ago. And I think if I look at all of those indigenous people and ancestry information, it's all about connecting to us as a soul, connecting to the bigger picture. Because you look at Indigenous Australians, they have what they call dream time, and that dream time is actually connecting to their ancestry, which they do with paintings and drawings and music, right? So to me, it's about connecting to your ancestors through, which could be through music or through reading or through ceremonies, right? Where you actually open yourself up to the ancestry information that our elders have had for thousands and thousands of years, right? Which have got tended to be lost in our current world, where people are so busy doing things and being in their heads and not connected to nature and not connected um, to us just being human beings rather than human doings. I think that's something that I would recommend. Spend time in nature, spend time with yourself, spend time meditating to open yourself up to the multidimensional world that we live in.
Exactly. Our ancestors have actually done a lot. When it comes to healing, I think they really did well there. When it comes to connecting within each other, actually connecting most
Totally.
especially with nature, they actually played a very powerful role. They were very, very huge indigenous tribes during that time. People who understand their belief come together and actually create some activities that make the surrounding and also the family greater as well. Now it is more different, but we do hope that we can try our best to build those ancestral what they've actually brought up in terms of healing because we are always people that we need to actually heal our inner self. Our inner self plays a very huge role in everything that we actually do. It plays a
Absolutely.
role
Yeah.
in the decision we make. It plays a role in also how we react to situations as well. And that is
Yeah,
why we
totally.
actually have to work on that perspective. And also, Mr. Paul, I want to use this opportunity to thank you for the time and the opportunity for us to have this profound and insightful conversation today. Thank you so much, Mr. Paul.
It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been wonderful talking to you. I can actually sense you've got a very strong passion to this, and you've got a good understanding. And I think it's fantastic what you're doing is helping getting wisdom out to people in the world, so that we can help people in the world, because we are going through a major change in the world right now. So well done for running your show and getting speakers on to share their wisdom, so that people out in the world, um, we can help them change. Thanks again for your time.
All right, Mr. Paul. Have a wonderful day, Mr. Paul. Bye bye.
Okay, thank you.